Hello respected viewers, I'm George from Ireland, and here you see me beside what John Bright called the mother of parliaments, and other people have called the mother something else of parliaments. But anyway, I'm here to ask whether Boris Johnson's days are numbered, because as you may know, he's embroiled in this imbroglio over that party he attended in the Gardener Downing Street in May last year, when the rest of the country was in deepest lockdown. And he's apologised over a week ago. The kerfuffle hasn't quite died down. Now, Bojo's strategy is to ease off coronavirus restrictions, which we might have done anyway, hope the economy is going to come back roaring, try and divert attention with other eye-catching policies, and just move the media narrative on and say this is all just Westminster Village gossip. And this kerfuffle is a distraction from the important things the government is doing. What real people out in the country want to know about is what we're doing to improve the economy and provide better public services and so on. And then hope that public interest in this will wane. It's like Harold Wilson said, a week is a long time in politics. But what needs to happen to force a vote of confidence in his leadership of the Conservative Party is for 15% of Conservative MPs to write to the chairman of the 1922 committee, that's Sir Graham Brady, demanding this vote of confidence. So they need 54 Conservative MPs. So those are the rules of the Conservative and Unionist Party. That is not the law of the land. Now, so far, only 6 MPs have come out saying they've done so. Now, there might be more have done so who just haven't actually declared their hand. And Sir Graham, as last time in 2017, has refused to reveal how many he's received so far. I think he's concerned that he's received some, which could be 1 or could be anything up to 53. If it was 54, we'd know. Yeah, that's it. And then one MP, Christian Wakeford for Bury South, he's crossed the floor. Now, it's 21 years since the last time a Conservative MP went over to the Labour Party. So that's quite a scalp for Labour. But he won very narrowly by about 105 votes. He's a maiden MP, and so obviously it's good news for Labour, but not really going to affect the government's majority. The majority isn't huge, but it's not wafer thin either. It might actually redound to Boris Johnson's advantage. It sort of boomeranged on the anti-Johnson crowd, because now they're going to be associated with disloyalty to the party, not just being against an individual. So to dissociate themselves, they could withdraw their letters to Sir Graham. So Bojo is a bit safer than he was last week, but he's still in the danger zone. As I say, I think he's going to hang on for a few months anyway. The febrile atmosphere has calmed down somewhat. So as I say, the big litmus test will be the local elections in May, first Thursday in May. Elections in the United Kingdom since 1918 have always been on a Thursday. Likewise, that fateful referendum in 2016 and the one in North Britain in 2014. Anyway, so there's this protest bill going through saying that disruption of public transport is criminalised. Chaining yourself, gluing yourself to anything with a view to furthering any demonstration is also going to be a crime. And there are more provisions, some of which are highly contentious, and Labour is arguing against them ferociously. So now the Cabinet have not vociferated in support of Boris Johnson. So far as I know, none of them have actually backstabbed him. There's been no off-the-record briefings that I know of against Boris Johnson, which suggests he's safe for the moment. But there has to be some clinical and cold calculation, electoral calculation. Is he a liability or asset? Is he going to drag them down? And despite Labour's sound and fury, Labour actually want him in situ, because they reason that he is going to pull down the Conservatives' popularity. Labour are riding high, 10% ahead in the opinion polls. Now, they were a bit ahead anyway before this bad news broke about 10 days ago. Bad news for the Conservative Party. You'd expect there to be midterm blues, because we're over 2 years since the last election. But the Conservatives could easily recover. So who is the hot favourite in case Bojo falls? That would be Rishi Sunak. But the one thing is, for the plotters, is they want to fell Johnson in one fell swoop. An attempt which wounds him but still leaves him as leader and therefore as Prime Minister would be the worst of all worlds for the Conservative Party. Because if you held a vote of confidence and the leader wins, as Bojo easily could, then you can't attempt to overthrow him for a further 12 months. If he could be induced to fall on his sword, that would solve it. He just resigns. That's it. Incidentally, if you if he's voted out, vote of no confidence by Conservative parliamentarians, then there's a leadership contest in which he's not permitted to stand because, you know, he's a lame duck. He'd have to stay on a leadership capacity for a couple of months because it takes some time for the Conservative Parliamentary Party to whittle down the candidates to just two. Then it would be put to the mass membership. Ordinary men and women who are members of the Conservative Party would choose their leader. So everybody says that Rishi Sunak is the hot favourite. He's young, but not too young. There are no skeletons in his cupboard. He's got a really good backstory. The son of Indian immigrants, the head boy at Winchester College, who got a double first in PP at Oxford, made himself a multi-millionaire through Deutsche Bank. He's married to an Indian IT billionaire's daughter. He's the Maharaja of Yorkshire and so on, because he sits for Richmond, a 99% white seat. So he's just the kind of success story the Conservative Party wants to tell, to reach out to the junior generation, to ethnic minority people. Being 41, he's ideal. One thing is he can actually stay there for a very long time if he's highly successful. But is it a hospital pass? Is it a poison chalice to take over the Conservative leadership right now? He might think it's too early. He sits for William Hague's old seat, and for William Hague, well, opportunity knocked too young, becoming leader at 35 in a dreadful situation, and he was always bound to lose that 2001 election, but lost it too badly. Obviously, if Bojo falls under the proverbial bus, then Dominic Raab would be the one appointed by the Queen, since he's Deputy Prime Minister. Now, there's no such office as caretaker Prime Minister. It might be there in a caretaker capacity until the Conservatives could elect a substantive leader, but obviously he'd have a very good chance of it being the incumbent, as in Prime Minister. And who else is there? It was obviously Priti Patel, but she's not very liked. There is, well, far more loathsome is Michael Gove. I don't think he's got a following. He's got a serious charisma deficit. Then there's Jeremy Hutt, who's a bit like an Ed Miliband character. He was head boy of his school too, Charterhouse, the son of an admiral married to a Chinese woman, and he even got a nationality wrong. And there's some people who might be racialists saying that he's a security risk since his wife is Chinese, but he's on the backbenches these days. And obviously the person who holds another great office of state is of course Liz Truss, the first Conservative woman to be Foreign and Commonwealth Secretary. But again, she doesn't have a great deal of following, and I don't think is terribly charming or appealing. She's not dreadful, but I mean, I don't see her getting. I think she's would be fairly far down the field of the roughly 6 candidates for the Conservative leadership. That's the Sovereign Tower passing now, by the way, when Her Britannic Majesty visits Parliament. This is the tower she comes in. It's much taller than the Elizabeth Tower. The Elizabeth Tower is the one up there with Big Ben in it. So that Big Ben tower, well, the Elizabeth Tower, has been under repair for about 6 years now. The clock only sounds on very special occasions. They never allow tourists up it, I thought, because it's actually a very narrow area and the lift can only take 2 people. I thought they could charge them a couple of £100, and so some tourists would be willing to do that because it's a very exclusive thing to be able to do. Anyway, so that's just a little bit about walking up and down the 300 and so metres of where Parliament is. Here we are at the south bank of the River Thames. There it is, the Palace of Westminster, even though no member of the British royal family has lived there for over 300 years. So I think Bojo is going to be here for a while, but I think it's improbable that he'll lead the Conservative Party into the next election. But he's not budging, he's not going to go until he absolutely has to. He may as well fight on. He thinks he can ride out the storm, and it looks like he's doing so, you know, at least in the short term. He's just going to tough it out. He's got a brass neck, so yeah, expect Bojo to brazen out. He is shameless. They tried to make Prime Minister's questions excruciatingly embarrassing for him, but he doesn't seem to be terribly embarrassed, even though he's avoided making eye contact with most people. That's enough from me, so please follow me on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram and so on, and donate to me on PayPal. You want to book online lessons with me in history, politics, religious studies, citizenship, French, English language, English literature, English as a foreign language, IELTS, elocution, debating. I'm a tour guide in London when tourism reopens one of these centuries. All right, toodaloo.